these. The night after the sealing of the lair was unusually quiet. Not the uneasy silence that followed battle, but a listening stillness. As if the land itself were holding a breath it had never learned how to release. Simba stood at the edge of the restored riverbed. Moonlight shimmered across the water, now flowing in a steady, careful rhythm. The scars were still there, faint lines in the stone, but they no longer bled darkness. Behind him, the prides rested in scattered groups. Some slept, some whispered, some simply stared at the stars, unsure of what the circle would look like when morning came. Kiara approached softly. "They're afraid," she said. "Not of the echo. Of what comes after." Simba nodded. Peace always scares those who've lived too long in conflict. Across the clearing, Kivali sat alone. His mane no longer burned with wild flame only, a dull ember glow remained, pulsing with his breath. He watched the water, unmoving. "He hasn't slept," Kiara said. "Nor should he yet," Simba replied gently. "Responsibility needs wakefulness." As if sensing their gaze, Kivli rose and approached. His steps were slower now, heavier not with weakness, but awareness. "The echo is quiet," he said. "But it isn't gone." "No," Simba agreed. "Ancient things rarely leave. They wait." Kivali lowered his head. "It showed me something before it collapsed. Not a vision. A possibility." Kiara stiffened. "What kind?" "Not shadow. Fear dressed as order." Rafiki's voice drifted from behind them. "The most dangerous mask of all." The mandrill stepped into the moonlight, tapping his staff against the stone. When echoes fail, they find new throats. Simba turned. "You think the echo will return?" Rafiki smiled thinly. "I think it will try. But next time, it will not rise from the ground." The wind shifted. Far away beyond the broken valley, clouds gathered over lands unseen. Not storm clouds, movement clouds. Migration. Displacement. "Scouts return from the eastern borders," he said. "Entire prides are moving, not fleeing." "Searching. For what?" Kiara asked. Amani hesitated. "Leadership." Simba closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of it press against his chest. The circle had survived fire, shadow, and Ichabod's survival was no longer enough. "It's beginning," Simba said. "Not a war. A reckoning of belief." Kion stepped forward, eyes thoughtful. "The roar feels different, quieter, but deeper." Rafiki chuckled softly. That is because it is no longer shouting to be heard." Simba looked at his son. "Then it's time we stop ruling from one rock." Kiara's ears lifted. "You mean leave the Pride Lands?" "Not abandon," Simba said. "Expand." Kivali's eyes widened slightly. "You'd let others shape the circle." Simba met his gaze. The circle was never meant to be owned. The moon dipped behind a cloud, briefly darkening the valley. Too far beneath the earth, stone shifted against lowly, patiently. Something ancient adjusted its attention, not toward fire or shadow, but toward choice. And above, under a sky preparing for change, the king of the Pride Lands took his first step toward a future that would test not his strength, but his faith in the circle itself. To be continued. Dawn arrived without ceremony. No roar of victory. No thunder of warning. Just lights low and dawn spilling across the valley, as if the sun itself were unsure what kind of world it was rising over. Simba watched the first rays touch the land. The broken valley no longer felt broken, but it felt unfinished. Like a story that had turned a page without knowing what the next chapter should say. Others south. A few glanced back toward the Pride Lands, torn between memory and momentum. Kiara stood beside Simba, sensing the shift. "They're deciding," she said. "Yes," Simba replied. "And they should." From the ridge, a Mani signaled. "The scouts are back." He approached with 2 runners from the drylands, dust clinging to their paws. "The borders are changing," one reported. "Water paths opening where none existed. Old hunting grounds breathing again. The land is rearranging itself," the other added. As if responding to something, Rafiki hummed softly. "When belief changes, land listens." Kion stared toward the horizon, eyes unfocused. "The roar doesn't pull me forward anymore," he said. "It feels like it's asking." Simba looked at him carefully. "Asking what?" For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Kivali stepped forward. "I won't ask forgiveness again," he said. "But I won't run from responsibility either." All eyes turned to him. There are prides beyond the echelons. Kivali continued. "Broken ones. Fierce ones. They won't follow the Pride Lands, but they might listen to someone who understands fire without worshipping it." Kiara studied him. "You want to go to them?" "I need to," Kivali said simply. "If the echo ever finds another voice, it will start there." Simba stepped closer, searching Kivali's eyes not for flame, but for intent. Finally, he nodded. "You won't go as a king." Kivali dipped his head. "I wouldn't accept the title." "You'll go as a guardian," Simba said. "Accountable to the circle. Answerable to life." Kivali exhaled, something heavy leaving his chest. "Then I'll go." Toe. The decision rippled outward. Polly. Others stepped forward, leaders of distant prides. Elders who had never knelt to Pride Rock. Hunters who had lost faith in crowns but not in balance. "We won't be ruled," one said. Simba met their gaze. "Then don't be." Rafiki smiled wide. "Ah, now that is new." 2. By midday, the valley transformed into movement. Paths formed not roads, but intentions. Groups departed in different directions, carrying shared memory rather than shared command. Kiara watched them leave, pride and worry intertwined. "This is bigger than us," she said. "It always was," Simba replied. As the sun climbed higher, Simba returned to the riverbed one last time. He placed his paw against the stone, feeling the faint hum beneath. "The circle isn't safe," he murmured. "But it's alive." Deep below, something listened. Not with hunger, with curiosity. Far away, beyond known lands, a tremor passed through ancient roots, subtle, deliberate. Not an awakening, a response. Because the world had felt unity, not as force, but as choice. And the next challenge would not come as fire or shadow, but as doubt. And doubt, Simba knew, could not be defeated by strength alone. To be continued. Doubt arrived not with a roar, but with a whisper. It didn't tear the sky apart or crack the earth beneath their paws. It simply settled in during the quiet, ordinary days that followed the Great Fire. Weeks turned into months. The Pride Lands began to heal. The savanna grass grew thick and green again. The herds of prey returned, and the rivers found their steady, familiar paths. To any outsider, it would have seemed that peace had finally, truly won. But Simba felt it. He felt it in the silent pauses between his own heartbeats. The circle of life was turning once more, but this time, it wasn't moving in a single, unified direction. It was fracturing. Some prides flourished, quickly embracing the new way of shared paths and shared responsibilities. They saw a future in harmony. But others pulled back, suspicious of this new unity, seeing it as influence disguised as cooperation. A few even rejected the circle entirely, choosing the harsh certainty of isolation over the unpredictable nature of trust. And every single choice, no matter how small or distant, sent ripples echoing back to Pride Rock. One evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Simba sat with Nala at the base of Pride Rock. The land before them was breathtakingly beautiful, glowing with a serene, peaceful light. "Do you ever regret it?" Nala asked softly, her voice barely disturbing the calm air. "Letting go of so much control." Simba didn't answer right away. He watched the last sliver of the sun disappear below the horizon. "I regret believing control was ever truly mine to begin with," he said at last, his voice heavy with the weight of that realization. A faint, knowing smile touched Nala's lips. "That sounds like wisdom." Simba let out a quiet, tired laugh. Or maybe just exhaustion. Oh, above them, hidden on a shadowed ledge, Kiara was listening. She had been different ever since her time in the valley. Not hardened, but sharpened, like a tool honed for a purpose. She asked fewer questions these days, but when she did, they were precise, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. Later that night, long after the stars had claimed the sky, she found Simba alone. "I want to leave," she said, her voice clear and steady. The words hung in the air. Simba looked at her, and while he was surprised, he wasn't shocked. "Leave, you mean?" "Leave the Pride Lands." "Only for a time," Kiara clarified, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not trying to escape anything. I need to understand." Simba studied his daughter's face. He saw her resolve, her strength, the complete absence of fear. "Shit. You think the circle needs more than one voice to guide it," he said, more a statement than a question. "I think it already has many," Kiara replied. "And someone needs to go and listen to the ones that are farthest away." A long silence stretched between them, filled only by the sounds of the night. Finally, Simba gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Then you will go with my blessing. Not as my shadow, not as the heir to the throne, but as yourself." Kiara dipped her head, a flicker of deep emotion crossing her features. "Thank you, Father." Far beyond the familiar borders of the Pride Lands, Kion felt the shift. It was like a subtle change in the wind, a new vibration in the earth. He and a small, loyal group had been traveling the outer territories not to enforce his will. Not to command, but simply to listen. He'd learned that wherever imbalance began to stir, the roar of the elders would react. It no longer erupted in violence, but with a persistent, insistent hum, guiding him. One night, this feeling led him to a place that felt deeply wrong. The land itself seemed confused. The trees leaned away from each other as if in disagreement. A nearby stream flowed in two opposite directions at once, and no prey would dare set foot in this area. The silence was absolute, utter. At the very center of this anomaly stood a single, smooth stone. It was ancient, unmarked, and radiated a strange energy. Kion approached it cautiously. He expected the roar to build within him, to rise in his chest, but it didn't. It just waited. "This isn't the work of fire," Kion whispered to himself. "And it's not a shadow." As he got closer, the stone pulsed with a faint, internal light. And then, a voice not spoken aloud, but pressed directly into his thoughts, a gentle yet profound pressure. "What will you do?" it asked. when unity costs you your own belonging. Kion stumbled back, his heart pounding. For the first time since he had inherited the awesome power of the roar, he felt true fear. It wasn't a fear of his own power, or of some external enemy. It was a fear of consequence, of a choice he didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, in distant, unfamiliar lands, Kivali stood before a fractured pride. They were gathered along a scorched, desolate ridge, their fur matted, their eyes filled with distrust. They did not bow to him. They did not kneel. And that was good. "I'm not here to rule you," Kivali announced, his voice carrying across the windswept ridge. "I'm here to stop something that's far worse than fire." A scarred lioness, her face a testament to past battles, stepped forward. "And why should we believe a single word you say?" Kivali looked past them, at the land they called Homeland, that had been burned once, and was now struggling to survive again. "Because," he said, his gaze returning to hers, "I believed the wrong thing once, too." Just then, the earth beneath his paws trembled not violently, but with a distinct, low warning. The deep echo was quiet, but it wasn't gone. Back at Pride Rock, Rafiki sat alone beneath a vast, star-dusted canopy of the night sky, his staff resting across his knees. "The circle breathes," he murmured to the cosmos. "But breath can also be held." As he watched, the stars above seemed to shift, almost imperceptibly. Familiar patterns changed. They weren't broken, but rearranged. Simba appeared beside him, his gaze also turned upward. "Do you see it too?" he asked quietly. Rafiki nodded his head slowly. Yes. The age of answers is ending." "And what begins now?" Simba asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. Rafiki turned to him, a sad, wise smile on his face. "The age of questions," he said. "Questions no king can answer alone." Just then, a distant rumble rolled across the plains. It wasn't thunder. It was the sound of choice. All across the world, lions stood at crossroads, not of territory or land, but of belief. To see if it could survive without the comfort of certainty. And trust, once questioned, has the power to reshape the entire world. Thank you for watching. The world did not break all at once. It shifted. Subtly, quietly, like a river changing its course beneath calm water. Kiara traveled east first, venturing beyond the places maps remembered. She walked alone by choice, her pace unhurried, her senses wide open to the world around her. Each land she encountered told a different story. Some welcomed her with open curiosity, their gazes friendly and inquisitive. Others met her with a guarded silence, their eyes wary, holding their secrets close. In one territory, she discovered a pride that thrived without a king. Decisions there were made by consensus. The process was slow, but deliberate, and every voice was heard. In another, a single, powerful lion ruled with absolute strength. The land itself seemed to reflect his reign, sharp and brittle, alive, but perpetually tense, as if holding its breath. Through it all, Kiara listened. She did not judge. She simply learned. Though night, beneath a canopy of unfamiliar stars, she dreamed. It wasn't a nightmare of fire or shadow. She dreamed of the circle of life, stretched thin. It wasn't breaking, but pulling, testing just how far it could reach before something finally gave way. When she woke, a heaviness settled in her chest. This isn't about enemies anymore, she whispered into the quiet dawn. It's about belief. Far away, Kion stood at the ancient stone again. It had not moved. It had not spoken to him since their last encounter. But the roar inside him felt incomplete, as if a piece of it was missing. "You asked me a question," Kion said softly to the stone, the memory of its challenge still fresh in his mind. "Now I'll ask one back." Shell. He placed his paw against its cool, unyielding surface. "What happens when unity hurts?" The stone pulsed with a faint low light. Images flooded Kion's mind not visions of destruction, but of separation. He saw lions walking different paths, not out of hatred or anger, but out of necessity. He saw circles of life overlapping, diverging, and reconnecting in complex patterns that no single roar, no matter how powerful, could ever command. The understanding struck him like a physical blow. "The roar can guide," Kion breathed, the realization dawning on him. "But it can't force belonging." The stone stilled, its light fading. And for the first time, the roar within him felt lighter. Not weaker, but freer. Meanwhile, in the scorched lands, Kivali was facing his own reckoning. The fractured pride he now led did not follow him blindly. They argued. They questioned his authority. They challenged his decisions openly, pushing back against his every command. And each time, to his own surprise, Kivali listened. It was harder than any fight he'd ever been in, harder than facing fire and shadow. But slowly, something began to change. The land itself seemed to respond not with a sudden burst of green, but with a quiet patience. New, tentative growth took root in the places where restraint had replaced rage. One evening, a young lion approached Kivali hesitantly. "You don't act like a king," the lion observed. Kivali looked out at the land, a land he had nearly destroyed, and simply nodded. "Good," the young lion pressed. "What are you?" Then, Kivali's gaze drifted toward the distant horizon. Someone learning to live with what he almost destroyed. Back at Pride Rock, Simba felt the weight of distance. Not the emptiness of absence, but the sharp reality of independence. The circle was no longer centered on one place, on one voice, and that realization terrified him. And yet, in a strange way, it relieved him in equal measure. Nala watched him, her gaze knowing and kind. "You're letting go again." Simba turned to her, a new understanding in his eyes. "I'm learning where to hold on," he replied. That night, Rafiki gathered the elders. Not just the elders of the Pride Lands, but visiting voices from distant territories, each with their own wisdom. There was no throne, no ceremonial ledge, just a simple circle drawn in the dust. "The world is changing," Rafiki said, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "And change does not ask for permission." An elder from the south, her fur the color of desert sand, spoke up. "Then what remains of the circle?" Rafiki smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "Circle was never the rules," he explained. "It was the relationship." A profound silence followed his words. Then, slowly, a ripple of understanding spread through the gathered elders. Elsewhere, deep beneath the earth, among the ancient roots of the world, the ancient presence stirred again. It was not with hunger this time. It was with curiosity. The deep echo had once fed on division, on hatred and strife. Now, it sensed something different in the world above uncertainty, without hatred, separation without war. A final test remained unfulfilled. If unity survives, choice. The presence whispered through stone and soil. Then it becomes something stronger than balance. Above ground, the world was in flux. Storms gathered, not with destructive fury, but with an unpredictable wildness. The seasons blurred into one another. Ancient migration patterns shifted, creating new paths across the savanna. The world itself was asking a question. Not who will rule, but how. Will we live together when no single answer fits all? Weeks later, Kiara returned. Her body was tired from the long journey, but her eyes were alight with a newfound clarity. She stood before Simba at dawn, the first light of day painting the sky. "The circle isn't failing," she said, her voice steady and sure. "It's expanding." An expansion hurts. Simba listened carefully, taking in every word. "Some will walk away," Kiara continued, her gaze unwavering. "Not as enemies, as differences. And if they never return?" Simba asked, the old fear of loss still echoing in his heart. Kiara met his gaze. "Then the circle must learn to exist without owning them." Simba closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, something in his posture had fundamentally changed. The weight on his shoulders seemed to have shifted. "We don't chase unity," he said, his voice resonating with a new kind of strength. "We earn it." High above, the clouds parted briefly, and sunlight touched the land in scattered individual patches, not one single, overwhelming beam, but many. Across the world, lions were making choices. Some chose to align. Some chose to diverge. Some simply stood still, waiting to see what this new world would become. Far below, the ancient presence settled back into its watchful silence. Because the greatest test was no longer coming. It had already begun. Not with fire, not with shadow, but with freedom. And freedom, once given, could never be taken back.